The crystal chandeliers of Lucerk cast dancing lights across the wine glasses as my family gathered for our monthly dinner. I twisted the sapphire ring on my finger, a habit I had developed since acquiring it 3 months ago. "Really, Victoria?" my sister Charlotte drawled, gesturing toward my ring with her fork. "Still wearing that costume piece to family dinner?" I smiled quietly and sipped my water. The deep blue stone caught the light, its history hidden beneath centuries of royal secrets. "Let her play dress up," Mom sighed, adjusting her own genuine but considerably smaller diamonds. "Though, darling, at 32 shouldn't you be past the stage of wearing fake jewelry?" "It's not fake," I said softly, knowing they wouldn't believe me anyway. My phone buzzed. Another message from Sabes about tonight's auction. "Please," Charlotte scoffed, flashing her engagement ring, a recent acquisition from her investment banker fiancé. The ostentatious sparkle practically blinded me. "That's supposedly what, 3 carats? You can barely afford your rent." Dad peered at my hand over his wine glass. "Where did you get it anyway?" "One of those vintage shops you're always haunting." "And estate sale," I replied truthfully, omitting that the estate had belonged to European royalty, and that the sale had involved 3 governments and a team of historians. "Estate sale." Charlotte laughed. "You mean a yard sale?" "Probably brass with blue glass, though I must admit it's a decent replica." My phone buzzed again. The auction was starting in 20 minutes, right here in Lucerk's private room. My family had no idea why I had insisted on this particular venue for dinner. "Victoria still plays with her little antique business," Mom explained to James, Charlotte's fiancé, who was new to our dinners. "Nothing significant, of course. Just small pieces. Costume jewelry." "Actually," I began, but Charlotte cut me off. "Remember when she thought she'd found a rare brooch at that flea market? Turned out to be plastic." She smirked. I remembered. Just as I remembered the years of studying, the countless hours researching provinces, and the quiet deals that had built my reputation among the world's most exclusive collectors. "At least your sister has a real job," Dad said to Charlotte. "Junior VP at her age, that's something to be proud of." The room's doors opened as hotel staff began setting up additional chairs. My family didn't notice, too busy dissecting my career choices. "Speaking of jobs," Charlotte said, turning to James. "Did I tell you about my promotion? Full VP by next quarter." Meanwhile, Victoria is still playing treasure hunter. My phone lit up with a final message. "Auction beginning in 5 minutes. All parties assembled." "I should mention," I said carefully, "there's an auction happening here tonight. We might want to stay for it." "An auction here?" Mom glanced around as people in expensive suits began filing into the room. What could they possibly be auctioning at Lucerk? "The Royal Sapphire Collection," I said quietly, watching their faces. "Lost for 60 years until it resurfaced 3 months ago." Dad frowned. "That story was all over the news. Some expert found it in a private collection. But what does that have to do with?" He stopped as the auctioneer took his position at the front of the room, now filled with the world's premier jewelry collectors and museum curators. "Ladies and gentlemen," the auctioneer began, "welcome to this historic evening. Our first lot, the Royal Sapphire Collection, recently authenticated and presented for the first time in 6 decades. Discovered and authenticated by renowned expert Miss Victoria Winters, who successfully traced its provenance across 3 continents." "Victoria," Mom whispered, her voice faint. "The centerpiece," the auctioneer announced, "is currently being worn by Ms. Winters herself, the famous midnight sapphire, last seen at the coronation of 1953. All eyes turned to my hand where the ring, my ring, suddenly looked very different to my stunned family. Opening bid 20 million. Dad's wine glass slipped, spilling red across the white tablecloth as paddles began rising around us. Charlotte's dazzling engagement ring suddenly looked very small indeed. "I should mention," I said calmly, watching the bids climb, "that as the discoverer and authenticator, I receive 15% of the hammer price. Plus my finder's fee, of course." The room buzzed with excitement as the world's elite battled for my discovery. Sometimes the best revenge isn't telling people they're wrong. It's letting them see it for themselves, one bid at a time. The night was young and I had a fortune to make. The auction room crackled with energy as bids soared past 30 million. My family sat frozen, watching their world tilt on its axis while international collectors fought over my costume jewelry. 40 million, called out a distinguished man I recognized as the curator of the British Museum. 45, countered a Saudi prince from the back. Charlotte's manicured hands clutched her designer bag, her own ring now painfully ordinary. But you said you found it at an estate sale. I did, I confirmed, watching the bids climb higher. The estate of the Countess von Reichenbach. It actually took me 3 years to trace the provenance, and another year to negotiate the acquisition rights. 50 million, the British Museum curator called, his voice tight with determination. Mom's face had gone pale as she watched her unsuccessful daughter command the attention of Europe's elite. All those trips abroad when we thought you were wasting money on vacations, or research expeditions. I finished the thought for her silently. The midnight sapphire was only the beginning. Would you like to see what else I found in the Countess's collection? I asked. The auctioneer paused as my assistant stepped forward, carrying a velvet-lined case. Inside, nestled in black silk, lay the rest of the royal sapphire collection. Each piece authenticated, each with a history I had spent years uncovering. The complete set, the auctioneer announced. Necklace, earrings and tiara, reunited for the first time since 1953. All authenticated by Ms. Victoria Winters, whose expertise has revolutionized the field of royal jewel provenance. Dad's wine glass remained empty as he stared at the glittering collection. But your apartment, your clothes, he stammered. Exactly what a serious authenticator should wear, came a crisp British voice. Lady Ashworth, head of the Royal Jewel Commission, had joined our table. Ms. Winters's discretion and modesty are precisely why she's become the most trusted expert in our field. Charlotte's fiancé, James, looked between his fiancée's diamond ring and my sapphire, his face betraying rapid calculations. That ring, it's worth more than our entire investment portfolio. 60 million, the Saudi prince called. The tiara alone, Lady Ashworth continued smoothly, was thought lost forever. Your daughter traced it through 7 countries, 3 private collections and 2 revolutions. Quite extraordinary. Mom's hands shook as she reached for her water. Victoria, why didn't you tell us? Would you have believed me? I asked quietly. Between Charlotte's promotions and James's banking success, when would you have listened? The British Museum curator approached our table, bowing slightly. Ms. Winters, about the other piece we discussed. Already authenticated, I replied, pulling up photos on my phone. We can discuss terms next week in London. Charlotte's shiny new VP title suddenly seemed very small as the room's power players lined up to speak with her sister, the sister she had mocked for playing with antiques. 70 million, called a new voice. The director of the Louvre had joined the bidding. Your sister, Lady Ashworth informed my stunned family, has become instrumental in rewriting our understanding of royal jewelry collections. The Queen herself has requested a private consultation. Dad's face fluctuated between red and white as he watched the bids climb past 80 million. His unsuccessful daughter was about to earn more from one auction than his entire company was worth. And the ring? Mom asked weakly. Historically priceless, I explained. Though I expect it will sell for around 90 million, plus my fees of course. 95 million, the Saudi prince countered, causing Charlotte to choke on her wine. I should mention, I added calmly, watching the color drain from my sister's face, that this is just the first lot. I have 3 more collections coming up for auction next month at Christie's. The auctioneer's voice cut through the chaos. Final call, 100 million from the British Museum. Going once. Mom's perfectly maintained composure cracked. All those times we told you to get a real job. I had one, I said, smiling as the gavel prepared to fall. I was just playing a longer game than corporate promotions or investment banking. Sold. The gavel crashed down. $100 million. The Royal Sapphire Collection, authenticated and presented by Ms. Victoria Winters. As applause filled the room, I caught Charlotte's eye. Her shiny promotion paled against what I had accomplished in a single evening. Now, I said, rising to accept congratulations from the world's elite collectors, shall we discuss the Russian collection? I believe the Hermitage Museum representatives are eager to start bidding. The next morning, newspapers splashed my name across their headlines. Hidden treasure hunter. How Victoria Winters became the queen of royal jewels. I sat in my modest apartment, chosen for its proximity to the world's premier auction houses, reading the coverage while my family's frantic messages lit up my phone. The Queen's office called, my assistant announced. They've moved up your appointment to next week. The Duchess of Cambridge's sapphires need authentication. Book the flight, I replied, absently touching the newest ring on my finger, a Russian imperial piece I had tracked down in a Siberian vault. Next month's auction would make last night's look modest. One text caught my eye. It was from Mom. Darling, we were so wrong. Your sister's promotion dinner is tonight. Would you consider coming? I smiled and typed back, can't. Meeting with the Emperor of Japan's curator about a lost crown jewel. Maybe next time. Charlotte had also written, that ring, it wasn't costume jewelry, was it? No, I replied simply, attaching a photo of myself with the Queen's jeweler. Neither's this one. Or the next 3 I'm authenticating for Cartier. Finally, a message from Dad. I never understood your passion. Now I see you weren't just collecting jewelry. You were collecting history. I looked around my apartment, filled not with expensive furniture but with books and research files. Every so-called wasted vacation had been a hunt. Every waste of time had built my reputation. Now I wasn't just Victoria Winters. I was the most trusted name in royal jewelry authentication.